as maturing spiritual disciples, the question is not why, but how will I respond? How will I respond? And we talked last night about that. One of the responses that we have in our life is forgiveness, which is not pretending it didn't matter or not pretending it doesn't hurt still or we're not angry. That's not it. It's a full accounting of everything that has happened. It is choosing to release our grasp upon that person. How will I respond? And that is such a great question because we have an opportunity to put that in practice every single day. Somebody says something unkind. Work doesn't go the way you want. The kids are acting up. The kid got called to the principal's office again. Okay. How will I respond now? And that response goes deep, like we talk about. It always goes to the roots. And I love this catechism quote from Catechism 2563. It says this: "The heart is our hidden center, beyond the grasp of our reason or of others. Only the Spirit of God can fathom the human heart and know it fully. The heart is the place of decision, deeper than our psychic drives. It is the place of truth where we choose life or death. It is the place of encounter, because as the image of God we live in relation. It is the place of covenant." And we talked about covenant tonight, where covenant is not an exchange of goods, that's a contract. A covenant is an exchange of persons. And so whatever's happening in our life has little to do with the surface. God is always working something very, very deep. He's working to the core of our being. Because this is where He resides. He resides deep within us. And this is where our choices really come from, the core of who we are. You know, many things in life that we're doing, either for good or for ill. We'll say, for example, if we have a pattern of sin in our life, I guarantee you it's probably not an intellectual failure in your life. You know very well you shouldn't be doing it. We know it. I mean, have you ever started to say something like you're about to gossip about somebody and the Holy Spirit's like, don't say that, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And you're like, you start to say it and it comes out of your mouth, and while you're saying it, you're like, no, it's coming out of your mouth. It comes out of your mouth. And you say to yourself, I can't believe I just said that. I just said that. And sometimes things come out of our hearts. Jesus says, from the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. We learn about our hearts. Many times we're a mystery unto ourselves. Forget about other people. We're a mystery unto ourselves. Right? And so God is always working at the deep level of our heart. Because like we talked about, Christianity is not behavior modification. It is an entire transformation unto glory. Christ came to redeem us. God became man so that man would become God. God transforms us. His grace is real. It's not sin management. It is a complete transformation unto glory if we allow God to go into the depths of our hearts, my dear friends. So it's not a matter, it goes so much more deeper than just going through the motions, to really allow His heart to come and to encounter us. To where we allow Him to know us and we know Him, and He's a person who wants to be known. And I think we all have people in our life that we know very, very well. And I think we all have people in our lives, and I know I do too, that I wish I knew a little bit better. But for whatever reason, they just will not reveal themselves to me. They just won't share their heart. And you can never force that because it's very sacred. But there's so many people in my life, a couple that I can think of right now that I absolutely love them. They're just such wonderful people. And I try to show up as the best human being I possibly can, to be a safe place to share and to be a good friend on the journey. But for whatever reason in their own story, they are just not interested in speaking at a deep level or sharing their heart with me. And I have to respect that. But man, it makes my heart ache because they're really awesome and I would love to know them. And you just think of like how God approaches us, how He desires to draw our hearts out, and how He's a lover who wants to make His heart known. He loves us. And I'm fully convinced there's secrets that He shares with the saints as He hangs on the cross. Like, if you get close enough to Him, He'll tell you the depths of His heart. And it's beautiful. So when we allow Him into the depths of our heart, what happens is that hope is born. I want to give you just an example of hope, because hope is a theological virtue, okay? And hope is something that we exercise, and it leads us to on our trajectory of where we're going, okay? So just if you look at the definition of hope, this is just a standard definition of hope. So it is not wishful thinking, okay? So many times we use the word hope like we use the word love, and we love, quote unquote, love many things, and we hope for many things. So I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow. I hope that the Patriots win another Super Bowl. I would never say that, but you might say that. I can't believe I just said that. Like, I would never say that. But we use those words interchangeably, and then we say, I hope in God. And confident desire of obtaining a future good that is difficult to obtain. It is therefore a desire, I love that it's in language of desire. It is a desire which implies seeking and pursuing some future good that is not possessed but wanted, unlike fear that shrinks from a future evil. So it's the opposite of fear. To choose to hope is the opposite of fear. Hope is confident that what is desired will certainly be attained. It is the opposite of despair. It's an act of the will where we choose, and it requires openness of heart. Okay? And as a virtue, a theological virtue, so I'll give you a little catechism lesson here. So when you were baptized, you were infused with 3 theological virtues: faith, hope, and love. Which theological virtues have God as its end. The virtue is over right toward God. So the virtue of hope is what? Leading us home. That heaven is our home. That God will fulfill His promises. And it responds to the aspiration of happiness which God has placed in the heart of every single man. Every single person. All of us want to be happy. Every single person wants to be happy. So the virtue of hope, it leads us home to God. And hope can be really scary, because it's the desire of obtaining a future good which is difficult to obtain. And so many times in life what we do is we choose despair. We choose despair over hope because despair seems safer. But Christ is a man of hope. He raises people from the dead. He heals them. He's a man of hope. He's not a man of mediocrity like we talked about. And he's not a man that just leaves people languishing. He speaks life into them. And I tell you, you've heard a little bit of my story of me as a recovering addict, and just my life has been very, very messy. And my brother has his own story, and he's kind of on his own journey as well. But I was giving my mom was talking about, fasting for me and praying for me, which she still does, and she prays for my brother as well. And like I said, he has his own story. And it was several years ago, and I've never forgotten this. My mom was a force to be reckoned with. But anyway, so we were talking about something, and I was kind of giving her a hard time about my brother. It's like, I said something about my brother, and my mom just stopped me right there. And she's like, look at me. She's like, let me tell you something. She's like, you will never, never, never know what it's like to have a child and to give that child the best of everything. You give them the best food. You give them the best education. You take them to the best religious education you can possibly. You put them in the best sports camps. You try to make them flourish. And you guard them and you protect them as best as you possibly can. She's like, you will never know what it's like to have that child grow up and walk away from everything you've ever tried to do for them. She's like, you will never know how hard that is. And she's like, I will never, ever stop loving you or your brother, ever. I will never stop fasting for you. I will never stop praying for you because I'm your mother and I love you. And I will never stop loving you. It's hard for my mom to hope sometimes. But my mom still chooses it. Because she knows God's love ultimately is going to win. And God doesn't always do what we want him to do, thank God. Because his ways are so, so far above ours. So far above ours. But in our lives, my dear friends, do we not all have situations where we have a choice, like we talked about? We have a decision. How will I respond? I have a situation in my life that looks like it's hopeless. It looks like it's full of despair. It looks like this person is not going to change. It looks like the church is going in a certain direction. But we know ultimately that is not true. That God promised what? He promised that his church would never fail. You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail. That is offensive, not defensive. Right? So we know the church, she will triumph because she's the bride of Christ and he loves her. He's given his life up for her. Now whether you and I participate in that is entirely it's a personal decision up to us. But this is where our life is going, my dear friends. Pope Benedict said that people who have hope live differently. Because it's not wishful thinking. It's not a Pollyanna view of like, wow, we don't have real problems. Yes, we have real problems, but yes, grace is even more real than that. And there's nothing beyond the mercy of God. I bet every single one of us in this room have a story, have just one, if we can start with one story, where somebody surprised the heck out of you and you're like, man, I did not see that one coming, right? Like you said to yourself, that person will never darken the door of the church, that person will never go to confession, that person will never even come and acknowledge me. And they do. And people have these beautiful conversions, people have these ways that just God is always surprising us. He's so beautifully surprising us. He's always surprising us. So I think we can be very attentive to what's in our hearts, what's in the depths of our hearts. Am I somebody who is sitting in despair because it seems safer, right? Am I shrinking back from what appears like a future evil? Because hope puts us on the offensive, which means you and I have to sow into situations. You and I have to live with open hearts. We have to live with vulnerable hearts. We have to be willing to go through the travail, through the suffering, death, and resurrection. Why? So we can rise. That's the Christian journey. And that's the day-to-day journey in big things and in small things. And that, my dear friends, is what Lent is all about. Okay? So here we go back to this. Our disciplines of Lent are about bringing healing. Okay? So you can ask yourself, if your disciplines in these areas, right, the student, the way, how we learn relationship, are these helping bring about these areas of our life? Many years ago, I was listening to this Christian comedian, and he was giving a stand-up bit, and so he just kind of, in the middle of his act, he said, let me ask you some questions. Like, where are my Catholics at? He's like, any Catholics in the crowd? They're like, hey. He's like, okay, hey, Catholics. He's like, I want to ask you a question. He's like, okay. You got this thing called Lent, right? Lent. And I'm like, yeah, Lent. He's like, let me ask you something about this. He's like, so Lent. So Jesus Christ, it was so great. Jesus Christ, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, creator of the universe, he comes and he suffers and he dies for you, and you guys give up Cheetos. He's like, can somebody explain that to me? He's like, I don't get it. Like, your Lent is giving up Cheetos, And I was laughing, so I'm like, amen, brother. Unless you got a severe addiction to Cheetos, they're like, amen. So if as grown-ups, if the extent of our Lent is giving up chocolate, okay, if that's all it is, and I think we have to ask ourselves, when we're 40, 50, 60 years old, if that's the extent of Lent, we have to kind of reevaluate what's really going on, okay? Because what it's supposed to do, what our fasting is supposed to do, unless you have a severe addiction to chocolate. When I was at teacher's aide in a first grade classroom, the kids were writing what they wanted to give up for Lent, these little crosses, and there's chocolate, CHKLIT. One kid wrote meat, like MEET, like meeting people. I'm like, oh, I hear you there, some kind of men. Meeting people, what is this lending itself to? And you are entirely free in these last few weeks of Lent to reevaluate the whole thing. Can I just give you something that might help along the journey? Can I talk about almsgiving for a second? Because almsgiving in the traditional sense is giving money. But one of the most important things you can give is money. But the second most important thing, or I really think the first important thing that you can give somebody is time. If you want to know what's really important to you, look at what you spend your money on and what you spend your time doing. That will be indicative of what's important to you. And what most people want, surprisingly enough, most people do not want our unsolicited advice all the time. Most people want to be listened to. Most people all they want is you just to show up with your heart open and your phone put away. And just listen. And if you've ever tried to listen to somebody, you realize how hard it is to actually listen to them. Because usually when we're listening, we're formulating our own response in our mind, okay? We're already trying to maybe help them or fix them, but most people, they just want you to be present, and all they want you to do is listen to them. Listen. And it's amazing what happens. And people will listen to us. They will take our advice. Hopefully when it's asked for. They will take our advice when they know that we love them. I've had some people say some very hard things to me in my life. But really the thing is, if you need to say something to me, say it to my face. Just say it. I need to know it. But say it to me. But when you love me, I'm going to hear what you have to say, even if it's really difficult. Because I know you love me. Are there people in your life that just need your time? And go out to dinner without having your cell phone. It's hard. It's hard for us now because we're all addicted. It's so hard for us to do that. And many of us don't know even how to interact with people. We don't know how to deal with uncomfortable feelings. So the first thing we do is we reach for our cell phones. It's like this strange phenomenon that we're all stuck in right now. But if we could just put that away and just spend time with people, that's what most people want. They want our time. The gift of our presence. The gift of your presence to somebody is priceless. Can I recommend, just going to go on here for a second, but can I recommend 2 books for you? People often ask me what they can read. This is the #1 book I recommend across the country. It's by a marriage and family therapist named Dr. Bob Schutz, and the book is called Be Healed. And what we talked about last night extensively, and really themes of kind of what we've been talking about these 3 nights, he covers in his book. He's a Catholic marriage and family therapist for 40 years. He talks about why we do what we do. We have the behavior up here, but we have the deep roots under here. He chronicles his own journey. He's one of 8 kids. His father left the family when they were very young, and just his own journey of recovery as a man and in his marriage and things like that. that. This is hands down, the #1 book. I recommend it across the country. If you want your life to change, I would highly recommend this book. This is another beautiful book that actually on our podcast right now we're almost at the end of a 6-week series. But Father Jacques-Philippe is a wonderful spiritual master. He speaks all over the world about all kinds of topics. But this is a tiny, tiny little book. It's called Searching for Maintaining Peace. And I would highly recommend it as well. I mean, you can find it on Amazon. Something just to kind of take in your spiritual reading as we journey together, as we make time for the Lord, as we journey together. These are really, really great resources. So I would highly recommend both of those, okay? So kind of as we journey here, as we kind of end, and we're going to just prepare for the Lord here in a few minutes. But Pope Benedict, in his very first homily as Holy Father, he said this. He says, "Are we not perhaps all afraid in some way? If we let Christ enter fully into our lives, if we open ourselves totally to Him, are we not afraid that He might take something away from us? If we let Christ into our lives, we lose nothing, so great, absolutely nothing of what makes life free and beautiful and great." And then he says this, "Only in this friendship is the great potential of human existence truly revealed." Only in this friendship is the great potential of human existence truly revealed. Why? Because our stories are continually unfolding. And I talked to some of you last night, and I just say this to all of you, and this is just kind of on the journey. Some of you had some very deep things open up last night in the meditation on forgiveness. And that's a beautiful thing, because that's how our hearts unfold. And then some people said, I thought I forgave that person already. Like, I was surprised to see their face come to my mind. Or my heart was open and I wept a lot. And does that mean that the other steps that I had not forgiven them or that I hadn't been healed before? And the truth is that you're continually being healed. Our stories are always unfolding, because love never ends. Love is always desiring to heal the beloved, to seek the beloved. So God in your story, my dear friends, is always healing you. So even if the same person comes to your mind for years whom you need to forgive, or maybe last night it was the same person, I guarantee you that God has been doing so many steps along the journey. And He continues because your story is always unfolding. Always unfolding. And you see that very beautifully. If I could just give kind of another example of marriage, and if you've ever been to kind of a wedding reception or an anniversary where somebody's been married like 40 or 50 years, right? And they renew their vows. They've been married 50, 60 years. They come into the church. They renew their vows, and they go into the hall and they have a beautiful dinner. And at one point, the bride and the groom get up and they just make a little speech. And they look at everybody out sitting there having dinner, and they say, we're so grateful. Thank you so much for coming. We've known many of you our whole lives, and we're so glad that you're here to help celebrate this day with us. And then usually what happens is the groom will turn to his bride and he says, I didn't think she would get any more beautiful than on the day I married her. But she has. And she's the mother of our children. And she's a wonderful woman. And she's put up with me for 50 years. And I love her. I love her. I love her now today more than I ever thought I could. And then she turns to her groom and she looks at him and she says, I picked up more dirty socks in the last 50 years than I can possibly tell you. But I love this man. He's such a good father. He's such a good husband. And we've had some hard years. And there were times I didn't think we were going to make it. But we did. And I love him. And I love him now more than I ever thought I could. I love him now more than on the day that I married him. And I hope it never ends. And it's that kind of love that continues to grow, right? Because as soon as love ceases, whether it's in a relationship, because we do the same thing with God many times in our relationships, we put somebody over here, and if say that same married couple were to say, well, we've been together, 20, 40, 50 years, I know enough about her, she knows enough about me, I think we're good, right? So let's just kind of live parallel lives. I'm like, man, y'all need some marriage counseling. That's probably what would be the next response, okay? Because love is always growing. Love is always growing. And many times what we do is we do that with God. We put God over here and we say, well, I'm a Catholic, I go to Mass on Sunday, I'm the Knights of Columbus, I do this, and you just stay over here, God, I'm going to stay over here, we're going to live parallel lives. And He just aches when we do that. And all He wants to do, like anybody else who loves you and whom you love in your life, He just says, can I just come a little closer? Can I just come a God who reveals us to ourselves. It's only in this friendship with God, because you know what, ultimately, we don't have a slave-master relationship with Jesus. Because he changed that whole thing when he says that verbatim, I no longer call you slaves, I call you what? Friends. Friends. You know what the definition of friendship is? Shared goodwill. Friends share everything. I no longer call you slaves, I call you friends. I mean, I can't even imagine the benevolence of God, who is King of Kings, Lord of Lords. He comes to earth and he takes on our suffering, he takes on our sin, and he transforms everything. And then on top of it, he says, I don't even call you slaves, I call you friends. I call you friends. And he comes to earth innocent and vulnerable, and he leaves innocent and vulnerable, and his heart is broken wide open for us. And what happens when we live this life, when this grows, when this continues to grow, my dear friends, no matter where we are on this journey tonight, when this continues to grow, that is exactly what happens as hope is born, gratitude is born, and our lives flourish. Our lives flourish. I want to show you a little video. What they're going to do is they're going to ask several people just one question, and I hope we can get the sound right on it. But the question is, and you might want to think about it yourself, but the question is, if you could be any age, okay? If you could be any age, what age would you be, right? And so they're going to have a variety of answers, which I think is very indicative of our hearts. So here you go.
Hello? We want to ask you one question. If you can be any age, what age would you be?
That's a curveball. That's a pretty good question.
I think
17.
20. 16. Well, when I'm older, I get to have a sweet 16 party. I want to work on a computer.
You finally can drive.
And you get to go to every party you want to visit.
Who doesn't want